everyone and welcome back to my channel. So if you are new here, then I am a young mum to Florence and I'm also a biomedical science student, and on this channel we just talk about everything between motherhood and science, health, anything in between. So do stick around and press that subscribe button if you wish to do so. It's completely free. Yeah, so what I thought I'd do is come back onto you. A absolute roller coaster of a time between December and March, and it's just settling down now. I'm settling into my second term of biomedical science, and what I thought I'd do is come back onto YouTube after a little bit of a break and just talk about how my first term went, how I found it and what my results were at the end. I am overall, just prefacing this video, I'm really happy with how it went, but there is definitely parts of it that I'm like, that could have gone a lot better. So I just thought I'd make a video summarising it, talking about the modules that I did, how they were assessed, how I sort of revised and prepared myself and the outcome. But let's just get started. So first of all, the modules that I did were anatomy, biochemistry and medical laboratory science. Anatomy and biochemistry were both assessed by an exam in January, and my medical laboratory science was assessed by a lab report that was due in the middle of December. So let's talk about MedLab first. That is the first module that I submitted an assessment for and also the first mark that I got back. So what is MedLab? Basically it is an introduction to lab skills used in medical sciences. So we had practical lab sessions and lectures each week. We had a 3-hour lecture and a 3-hour lab session per week, and then obviously a lot of independent study because COVID was still kind of going on in the last term. For our assessment we did it on RH and ABO blood grouping, and we basically had a lab session in I think week 9 where we had patient samples and we had to do the coagulation tests to identify the blood group that each patient was and then write the lab report, basically discussing the risks between patient A and patient B having a baby together because they are separate RH blood groups. So looking at RH and ABO incompatibility, and then also discussing kind of why we test for blood grouping, what would happen if we used everyone with whatever blood group was available. I submitted my lab report and I received my mark back, which was 70%, which is just a first class, which I'm really happy with. In terms of how I feel I could personally do better, I am still a little bit rusty with finding literature and reading through literature, holding my hands up and say I am the world's most impatient person ever. Sitting and reading through journal article after journal article after journal article just kind of hurts my head. I think if I had just read a few more articles I might have bumped my grade up a little bit. So it was 1,000 words limit and we had to submit between 5 and 7 references within the introduction and the discussion, and I think I did about 6, but as I say I do think they could have been of better quality if I just made myself take a little bit more time out to actually search for more literature. So that's how I personally think that I could do better. But in terms of my actual feedback, I didn't go too much into RH blood groups and focus more on ABO blood groups when it should have been a balance between the two. And the reason I think I did this is because I think it was a word limit thing and I spoke so much about ABO I sort of ran out of words for RH, and so that kind of comes down to me having to work on my literature being more concise for in the future. When I do my own research I'll need to publish articles that are, as I say, more concise and more to the point. Still have a habit of blabbing on a little bit. I personally am someone that likes exams. I like to be assessed via an exam. I don't like writing. I know that sounds crazy because I do want to go into research in the future, but I do love exams and I find that I perform 10 times better in exams than I do coursework, so I just need to work on that a little bit more. So that's all I'm going to say about MedLab. I really enjoyed the module, that it was assessed on blood typing and blood groups, and I really enjoyed doing the coagulation tests because one of the reasons that I am doing biomedical science is because I initially had a very invested interest in haematology, and that's kind of taken a bit of a backseat since I've actually done the course or started the course, but it's still something I'm very interested in. It's just something that maybe I might not go down the route of like I originally thought. So yeah, that's medlab in a nutshell. Biochemistry. So my biochemistry lectures were at 9 AM on a Monday morning, and anyone that's ever studied chemistry at any sort of level will know it is quite intense. So doing that right in the middle of winter on a Monday morning is just alas, we powered through and I'm finally finished that module. I'm very excited to have finished it. And so we had, as I said, our Monday morning lectures, and then between week 5 and I think like week 10 we had labs where we just did more and more like practical laboratory skills. Biochemistry module was assessed by a multiple choice exam, which at first seems like, oh, that's easy, multiple choice exam, just like a little quiz. Actually, I find them a lot harder because there's absolutely no leeway. Like if the answer's A and you put B, even if there's certain aspects of B that's correct but it's not the answer they're looking for, you don't get a mark at all. It differs to sort of a written, more practical exam. So let's just skip to it. I got 65%. I did kick myself for it at first, and everyone has different expectations of themselves when sitting exams and doing anything academic, so that is obviously quite a high 2-1, and it's only 5% off of first, but it was a bit guttering to me because it was the exam mark that came after my first, and I was on a high and I was like, oh my god, I'm like smashing this, and then I got a lower grade and I was like, oh, okay. Thing with my biochemistry exam is it was sat in the worst conditions possible. So first of all, my entire family had COVID, so I had Florence on my own whilst I was sitting it, and it was an at-home exam because of COVID. So as I said, no one could have Florence, I had her on my own. I was also going through like the biggest thing in my personal life that I've gone through so far, and I'm not going to get into it, and I probably will never speak about it, but it's just, if you think about something really bad that can happen to you and then it happens and it's like and then I was like, I've got an exam and I also have no one to look after my 2-year-old who's like bouncing off the walls. So I am proud of myself for coming out with a good grade and for even sitting the exam really. So yeah, I got 65%, but we're not doing excuses. Let's talk about what actually went wrong and how I could actually improve. I'm someone that doesn't actually mind maths. I do actually like maths, but I think it was all in the maths in biochemistry, and I think that's because I'd got myself so excited about doing medical science that I was just like, maths, I've been there, done that. Like, I don't know, I was just a bit bored of it, so I just think I need to do more practice questions. Spent a lot of time revising like nucleic acids, things that I hadn't done at that level before and got really excited about. The things that I'd maybe came across at GCSE or during my first degree or during my biology and chemistry exams back in the summer, I sort of didn't go back over them when I should have. So I think again, I do need to work a little bit more on this spaced repetition and just going back over things and over things and over things, small and often. Definitely, I would say the best way to learn any science or any medical subject. Well, I'm just going to give myself credit and say I did not like the biochemistry module. I think it is very necessary and I do love science. There's a bit of a saying in our labs at our uni that's just like, do your chemistry, pass your exams, and then do the fun biology stuff if you're interested in that, and there's always a chemist around that can help you out, because as I say, it is very necessary in science, all science, and arguably the basis of science. But do we need to know everything? No. Do we need to pass our exams? Absolutely. And I did pass my exams at 65%, so I'm very happy with that. Last module, I feel like this video's gone really quick. That's me. So I was so excited to start learning anatomy. I love learning about the human body. We had 3-hour lectures again on anatomy, 1 a week, and then we also had some dissection, prosection. Labs had an archaeologist take us for some skeletal anatomy where we actually got to look at human bone remains. Now obviously I've got no footage of this because of the Human Tissue Act, which I'll probably talk a lot about in the future. I loved that. It was quite tough on the old heart, you know, there was children's bones and stuff you don't want to see as a mum. Of course, any medical student, any biomedical student, anyone studying any kind of healthcare will always be grateful for people that do donate their bodies to science or medical research. That done with, let's talk about anatomy. So it was assessed by an exam series of short answer questions. 75% on this. I was absolutely buzzing with this. It really boosted my confidence. So I got my med lab, then I got my biochemistry, and I was like, ooh, and then I got my anatomy, and I was like, yes. So this boosted my average back up to 71%, which means that I did essentially get 71% for my first term. We're starting off strong. Me was split up into, the different weeks had different kind of themes: cardiovascular, gastrointestinal, we had some bits about the nervous system and how that links, the respiratory system, and then we had quite a lot of weeks on the skeletal anatomy. Now, I love any organ anatomy, like anything to do with the digestive system, obviously myself having chronic digestive problems. Cardiovascular I am also interested in, but I do find it a bit harder. And skeletal anatomy, as I said, I loved my bone lab sessions, but sitting and learning about tissue types and bones was a bit dull. They did make it fun, you know, it was quite interactive, but I don't know, I'm certain, like, I know I'm not going to do anything to do with the skeletal system in the future, but I enjoyed learning about it, and I obviously took a lot of it in because I did do well. Unfortunately, we haven't actually got our papers back, so I don't know the exact points at which I went wrong, because obviously even though I did do well, I still lost 25% of the paper. So I would like to know where I went wrong, so I think I'm going to just email my module tutor and ask for the actual feedback. In terms of revising anatomy, I found that past questions was my saviour. I found it really interesting to actually do the questions, and it's also quite satisfying when you get them right. If you don't have a bank of questions provided by your university, then you can definitely make your own based on the lectures. So we did actually get a bank of past questions after every lecture, just based on whatever we learned in that lecture, which was really nice because you could keep going back over them again with a spaced repetition. But as I say, if you don't have that, definitely just as easy to make your own, or even ask all the years kind of how the exams were laid out. Still have a lot of anatomy to learn. I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means, and I certainly don't think that that was the kind of module aim. I know an overview of each organ system, probably more than someone that hasn't studied it. Well, definitely more than someone that hasn't studied it, but certainly by no means am I an expert. I'm definitely keen to progress my knowledge further. So that's my grades, that's how I found my first term, what I could do better. I'm definitely a self-critical person, but I'm learning that I do need to see the good parts of myself, otherwise I'm never going to know what I've done well and how I should go ahead in the future. So do stay tuned, see how I am navigating my way through my second term. I'm going to start doing some more vlogs, so I'm going to commit myself to uploading every Thursday evening around 6 PM. So if you did enjoy this video, as I said at the start, please don't forget to subscribe. We do just talk about anything here, so please do join us, and I will see you all in my next video.